Hey, heart-centered ladies, it is Anna. I want to briefly introduce myself in case we've never met before. I realize I don't often introduce myself. So hello, welcome if this is your first time tuning in. My name is Anna Franzen and I'm a business coach for heart-centered entrepreneurs. And I wanted to share with you the 6 things, though it's been many more, but the 6 favorite things that I've learned the first 16 months of my business. As you guys know, I reached a great big milestone in my business last month, and so it's just celebration time around here. And it's been interesting this month. I felt like a real sense of like stillness in my business, and it's felt great. Like I still feel excited and motivated, but I'm feeling really like grounded and present. So I feel like that is exactly how it's how I need to be so that I can carry this group of women in this next season. And in this conversation, I'm feeling led to lead. Hi, Jen. Thank you. How are you doing, Jen? Happy Tuesday. If you're here watching the replay, please say hello. Also, let me know where in the United States or where in the world you're tuning in from. I would love to know that. So before I dive into the 6 things I've learned most these last 16 months in my business, I just wanted to share kind of what's been on my heart lately, just behind the scenes, and the conversation I'm feeling called to lead in this online space. And that is sales conversations from a heart-centered place, right? Like how do we, you guys, of course, like I've been talking about this all the time, right? Like relationship building in your business, finding clients, but I've never really directly talked about the actual sales conversations in like my big group. I talk about it all the time with my one-on-one clients, right? Like they don't need to attend this masterclass. Like they are probably sick of hearing this, right? Like the scripts and the questions I encourage them to ask and how to format a call and like all the practical things about sales calls, right? But I realize if you're not working with me one-on-one, you probably never heard some of my approach on this, and it's a little bit different than what you might be doing. And I really feel like you'll resonate with it, because if you're like me, you want to do the work in your business, but sometimes the sales part catches you up, right? And often I find my clients reverting to sales tactics and doing sales things that isn't them, right? It's not them. And so really it sounds crazy, but what I'm reminding them to do is return back to the human that they are, how they relate to people in real life, and bringing more of that into their business. And I shared last week 3 of my main beliefs of the core values, the things that the way you should be showing up in your sales conversations is, let me see if I can remember them from heart, coaching, leading, and I don't remember. There's one more. But really, like these 3 core things are things you already are, right? Like they're things that you already do in your life and business, in your life. And so I'm just encouraging you and teaching you exactly how to add them to your business, right? Like as I teach you these strategies, you're going to say, oh, really? I already do that. Or that already comes naturally to me. Of course. Yes. But I think when we sell, sometimes we forget our own stuff, right? Like we forget our own heart, we forget our own, like how we relate to people. And so it's just bringing that back in, because that, you guys, is the most effective. It feels better in the sales conversation, and it's also the most effective. Because give me an X in the chat box if you are someone who feels like, oh, sales conversations are just something I have to do so that I can do my work, right? Like, oh, they're painful and awful. I hate them, but they're necessary evil so that I can do my work. I don't want you to feel that way. And I would say probably most of you in the group feel that way, right? And I definitely used to feel this way, like I'm going to do it. But now I feel so much differently about sales conversations, and I really feel like they are a part of my important work, and they can be used for good, and I can show up and connect and feel really, I can feel good, they can feel good, and it doesn't have to feel like weird and salesy, even though we are selling, right? Beautiful. Okay, so if you haven't already signed up, make sure that you do. If you signed up via my email list this morning, many of you signed up via the lead page, but you didn't complete the registration. I'm holding the space for 100 women. You guys, I'm doing a masterclass, like a full-on official masterclass on sales conversations, but I need you guys to fill out the registration form, not just the lead page, because I want you to be committed, right? And you guys know I'm doing this in exchange for you guys doing an active service. online or in person, but I really need to know that you're committed, because this is an important conversation, right? And we're going to be doing some mindset stuff, but also some strategy and getting into some specific and scripts and stuff. It's going to be sweet. Lynette says, yep. Erin says, Massachusetts. Jen says, working on this, definitely. Beautiful. Love that you guys are here. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so you can click on the link in your email, or you can comment on the thread that I posted if you're interested, and I will send you the link to that so that you can register. And I'm excited for it, you guys. Groups are my jam. Like, holding the space for a group is really where I thrive. And so I'm excited to literally bring together 100 women to really have that conversation around how do we do heart-centered sales conversations. Hi, Jacqueline. Yes, Jacqueline is in California like me. Okay, so let's dive into the 6 things that I feel like have really stood out the strongest to me of what I've learned the last 16 months in my business. If you resonate, let me know in the chat box. So the first thing is, my business does not define me. I can definitely find purpose and fulfillment and joy in my business, but it doesn't define me. This wasn't always the case. I felt like early on in my business, I had to land on a niche and messaging, and there was so much pressure on my offers, and I just felt this immense amount of pressure and this weight on my shoulders, because I felt like it all had to be perfect and it all had to be perfectly aligned, in the sense that, like, my niche has to encompass all of my passions and all that I can do for people, right? And it just, you guys, felt so heavy and overwhelming. And when I just released it and I said, goodbye, overwhelm, my business does not define me. I can do certain things and services in my business, and that doesn't have to encompass all of me, right? Like, if you think about anyone, any business owner, they are more dynamic and more diverse than their business, right? And so not putting pressure on yourself to have the perfect all-encompassing offer, or have the like, we can niche. I felt really released, and that I could niche so easily when I just gave myself permission to let my business be like part of my life and not my complete life. Also, I felt like I could risk a lot more, like I could fail and it not mean anything about me, right? Like, obviously, like, I'm super invested in my clients getting results, but like, feeling like I could put something out there and even if a ton of people don't sign up, that doesn't mean anything about my worthiness, right? And I know that you guys feel that way too, but I think it's really good to recommit to yourself and remember, my business does not define me. My sense of worthiness, who I am, my character, who I am as a human being, is not defined by my business. So I learned that very early on when I struggled with my niche. And you guys, I relearn it every single month, that my business does not define me, but I can still show up authentically and rock my business, right? Okay, that's number 1. Give me a number 1 in the chat box if that's something that right now you want to acknowledge to yourself, and you want to remind yourself, my business does not define me. I can show up fiercely in my business, but my business does not define me. I'm an awesome, kick A person, period. Whether I'm doing awesome and like making multiple 6 figures in my business, or whether I'm not making any money, it doesn't change who I am. It doesn't define who I am. It does not change how I show up in my business, right? I've told you guys this, but when I had a group of 10 people and when I have a group of 4,000 people now, you guys, which by the way, we need to do something to celebrate that, I show up the same. Like, how many of you guys have been with me from the early days? Like, I'm the same person. I'm showing up the same way, right? Because I feel like I really work to carry that sense of worthiness. Give me a 1 if you know that you need to embrace that truth too, that your business does not define you. Number 2, this is an affirmation I tell you guys all the time. I can sell and serve in my business and be in integrity. That is something I learned that I did not always accept, right? And now I'm passionate about teaching other women that, but it felt at the start, especially when I started my life coaching business, I feel like so much of my learning curve, you guys, happened as a life coach. And so I kind of like had a little advantage as a business coach, right? Because it was my second business. But I really, you guys, felt so much guilt around receiving money in my business, and felt like I could serve and I could sell, but I couldn't do both, right? So really believing that I can serve and I can sell and I can totally be in integrity doing it was a huge thing for me. So put a number 2. If that's something that you're wanting to really soak into and accept. And really, it's something that I renew all the time. But that belief that I can serve and sell and be in integrity. Number 3 is, I didn't really know how to title this one. So if you guys want to title this for me, that would be great. But what I wrote is that the type of business owner that I am, you guys, I'm a high touch, deep value, relationship driven business person. That's who I am, and that's what my people want, right? So I think Facebook ads are great. I think there's a time and place for Facebook ads. I think crazy automation is great. I think crazy systems are great. But not when it comes to people, right? I really feel like when it comes to people, when it comes to serving in my business, and this has been something that's been hard for me to claim, right? Because I think there's like a lot of pressure to scale and systematize, and that's good, but just who I am, you guys, and who I will always be is what I wrote: high touch, deep value, relationship driven in my business. And I realize that's what my dream clients want. Like, they want someone that is going to dive in there and be present. You guys, when I work with my clients one-on-one, I always hear like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, you're in it with me, right? And at least in this phase of my business, like, that's what I feel called to do. And so for a while, I felt like, oh, there's something wrong with me, that I don't want to like do this, like, even though I have 2 team members that work with me and I do have systems in my business, I don't really systematize people. Like, as you guys know, like I shared that $7 client tracker with you, like that's what I use. Like, I just manually add people's names to people that I want to remember to keep in touch with. And then it's literally me just PMing and checking in and saying like, hey, how are you doing? Like, that's me. And I used to feel guilty for that and feel like there was something wrong with that. But now I realize that's my strength. Like, that's me. And I'll talk a little bit about sales conversations too. Like, when I first started doing sales conversations, I would just like, I didn't really have a formula. Like, I would just show up and coach, like do my coaching thing. And like, I think there's some beauty to that innocence, right? And just being willing to show up as ourselves. And then somewhere along the path, I think I made myself wrong for that. And I was like, oh, I guess I need to do all the things and systematize and scale. And then I realized like, no, like I can feel supported in my business, but also continue to show up the way that's me. So put a number 3 in the chat box if that is you. Either you're the same way I am, or you're accepting that. Actually, no, I'm curious. Are any of you guys, and it's okay if you're not, you may not be this way, but if you are similar to me in that how you run your business is high touch, deep value, relationship driven, put a 3. That's not everyone. It's not for everyone, but it is totally for me, you guys. That's just me, and that's always how I'll run my business. And that doesn't mean that you can't make money doing it, and it doesn't mean that you can't, that you have to work a ton to do it. You guys, I'm in my office 3 days a week, and I make great income in my business, right? And I'm still, like, I think the myth is sold to us that we have to systematize and do this crazy, weird, funnely, salesy thing if we want to make decent income and not work a ton in our business. Does that make sense? So for me, that's number 3. If that resonates with you, I'd love to see a 3. High touch, deep value, relationship driven. That's just me, always will be. I'm going to accept and embrace that. Next one, number 4, is I can give and receive in my business. This is a hard one for us heart-centered women, right? Like, we're really good at giving, you guys. We're good at giving. Here, take this free thing, and here's this bonus, and let me help you for free. And yes, I'll give you advice forever. But it is so hard, especially at the start, to receive, right? Receiving looks like many things. It looks like being willing to invest in and receive from a coach. It looks like receiving from our peers and asking our biz friends for help when we need it, right? Like reaching out to someone, like not just receiving. Receiving doesn't just mean receiving when it happens to come to us, right? Though that's nice too, when someone like PMs us and is like, oh, I'm ready to work with you, awesome. But receiving means asking, right? That's what I named this call, the master class, invite, right? Like, we need to offer. Receiving is like, we can't, like, I see so many women saying, oh, I'm not making any money in my business, I'm not receiving anything, I don't have any friends, but yet they're over here in a corner, huddled down, not really, but like metaphorically, right? They're huddled over here in a corner, and they're not open, right? They're not asking, they're not saying, hey, I need help, I need support, and that's where it starts. You guys, how many times have you seen someone in this big group just vulnerably pour out their heart on in the big 4,000 member Heart Center Entrepreneur Facebook group, right? They write, you guys, I'm struggling. I need help. I'm feeling stuck. And then like, oh, comment, 18 comments later, right? Why? Like they received, not because they were sitting there scrolling, but because they vulnerably opened their heart, right? What's that quote? Like, open your hands if you want to be held, right? Love you guys. Thank you, Alicia. And so I think it's so important if we want to receive in our business that we're opening ourselves to it, right? We're asking, we're being a leader. That's the third word I can remember. We're being a leader and we're being direct and we're asking, right? So let me just talk briefly, then we'll move on to number 5. How does it look like to receive on all levels in your business? Okay, let's start with clients. We receive from clients income, right? And if we don't do this, you guys, we get bitter. If we're giving, we're going to start to get bitter and resentful. And that's not our client's fault, our pre-client's fault. That's our fault, right? We need to own that. We need to offer, right? We need to ask, we need to sell, we need to be direct and say, this is how you work with me, this is how you do it, and I would love for you to work with me, right? And even on sales conversations, we're going to cover this in the masterclass, but I think it's powerful to say, if you want to work with me, I would love to work with you. And that's vulnerable, right? That's scary because we're putting ourselves out there. But you guys, I realized, I think it was like 2 months ago, I was like, how come like I rock at sales, but I still feel vulnerable in the sales process? Like I still feel vulnerable every freaking time I put myself out there. But then I realized, oh, because I'm doing it right, right? When you're feeling vulnerable, you're doing it right. You're selling in the right way. You're being filled with integrity and you're going first as the leader, right? In any sort of relationship and heart-centered business, sales, and relationships, vulnerability is so important, right? Like we're opening our heart. We're saying, hey, I have this thing that I'm selling you and I think it's going to impact your life. And it's not just this thing that I'm detached from, but it's actually my life's work. Like this is part of my passion and purpose and I'm offering it to you. Would you like to purchase it or not, right? Like that's a vulnerable thing, but that's the offering we have to do in order to receive in our business, right? We have to ask. With our peers, it's the same way. If you're in a position, you guys, and you're sitting here watching this live stream and you're like, I don't have any friends, or I don't have the business friends and peers, like maybe in real life I've got good friends, but I don't have the business friends that get it. You are in charge of making those friendships. So what I want you to do is close your eyes. Will you do this with me right now? Close your eyes and ask yourself, who in the online business space, maybe it's someone you've seen here in this group, have I just been wanting to know? Like maybe I feel like they're a little too cool for me. They've got their act together more than me, but I would love to be their friend. Like I would love to get to know them. I'm just going to pause for a minute to give you some time to think about that. Who do I want to get to know? Who has been piquing my interest that I would love to chat with? After this Facebook Live ends, I would love for you to PM them. You don't have to ask, will you be my biz bestie forever? But you can just say, hey, do you want to do a 20-minute coffee chat? Wait for their answer, right? And that's how you form business friendships, right? Like that's one way. But remember, like in order to receive on a peer level, we have to be willing to ask and extend that invitation, right? And then same thing with like mentorships, right? Like same thing with wanting to receive from coaches. Like we have to be willing to ask and invest in those relationships too. So that's number 5. Was that 5 or was that 4? That was 4. I can receive and give in my business, right? I don't have to harp on you for how to give in your business. You already know how to do that if you're in my group. You guys give of your heart so generously and openly, but it's so important that you receive equally, right? And that you open yourself to receiving in your business. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox. Number 5, I can number these right. The 5th thing that I feel like I really learned is it's not my job to make people happy all the time. This, you guys, I'll just share really personally, is so hard in my life. This just happened this morning with my husband. Maybe this is TMI, but my husband came back from the coffee shop and I was like, hey, how was it? And he was like, oh, I don't feel like I had enough time. Like, I don't feel like I got enough done. And I took that super personally. This is bad of me, right? Like, I took this really personally and was like, well, like, aren't you happy that you got the time? Like, this is bad, right? Like, it's not my job to manage him, right? Like, my husband is in charge of his own happiness. And I'm not saying that I don't care about him. I love him so much, but he's the one that decides his happiness, his commitments, right? Like, he's an independent being. So are our clients, right? And if we are coaching or leading in our business in order to make our clients happy, it's a really, really dangerous slippery slope, right? There are many times my client, if you're a one-on-one client, you can vouch for this, but probably many times that my clients have gotten off the phone with me and been like, not that I'm mean, right? But have got off the phone and been like, oh, that's not exactly what I wanted to hear, but maybe it's what I needed to hear, right? And so when I realized, like, it's not my job to make my clients happy. Yes, it's my job to support my clients and to care about my clients and be super present and in it with my clients, right? But it's not my job to caretake or bubble wrap my clients, you guys, especially like as a mom. Like, this is so hard for me too, right? Because it comes from a good place. Like, we want our clients to be happy, right? But also remembering, like, that's not my job, right? It's not my job. What is my job? So what I wrote is, my job is to help people grow, to deeply care for people, and to be deeply present. I just added the word deeply with my clients. But so number 5 is, I learned it's not my job to make people comfortable or happy all the time, though I am deeply supportive. Hopefully this is coming across right. So put a number 5 in the chat box if that's something you want to just proclaim for yourself and you're like, I need to stretch into that. I need to realize, in order for me to fully show up, and that's not being invested. I'm deeply invested, right? It's almost like we were talking about last week, the difference between being invested and attached, right? Are we invested or are we attached? And I think for me, I continually tell myself, of course, I want to be deeply invested when it comes to my clients and their lives and their results, right? Like, I'm not saying, like, don't care about the results they get, but, like, not being attached, because then we start to get in the way and enable and not really fully let them rise, right? Like, remembering my clients, you guys, and your clients too, are strong people. They're strong, they're healthy. That goes back to the sales thing too, right? Of realizing I can sell to my clients, I can directly sell to my clients, and they're healthy women who know how to keep scrolling. They know how to unsubscribe, right? They know, like, my clients are healthy women, and especially at the start, you guys, when I was so intimidated to email people, it was me overly caretaking for my list, me being like, well, what if I come across as too pushy, and then my coach reminded me, Anna, people know how to unsubscribe, right? Like, people know, like, assume that people you're working with are healthy. When I was a life coach, I did a workshop on people pleasing, and my friend Erica, who's actually in this group, is not a people pleaser, and she gave me this insight, and it was a great workshop, and we were dialoguing back and forth, and she basically said, like, because she doesn't struggle with people pleasing, and so she was like, can you just assume, like, when you're talking with people or when you're saying no to someone or you're being direct, just assume that they're healthy like me, right? Like, she didn't say it like this, but just assume that they know how to say no, right? They know how to draw their boundaries, and they're going to be honest with you and direct. And if they are passive, you can't control that anyway, right? So stop worrying about it. Put a 5. Is that number 5? If you feel like you need to fully embrace in this season, it's not my job to make people comfortable and happy. Doesn't serve me, doesn't serve them, right? It's like trying to control something we can't. Have you guys heard of that? Oh, who is it? Stephen Covey talks about the circle of concern and the circle of control, right? How much of our time are we spending in the circle of control, like what we actually have control over, like how we show up, how we invite, and how much are we spending our energy in the things of concern that we have no control over, right? But we're just being busy and we're being concerned. That's me. I spend a lot of time out here sometimes. Okay, last one that I feel like I've really learned is just accepting this as a freaking imperfect process, you guys. It's so easy. I was just talking with a client this morning that's fully booked now, you guys, and I totally resonate with her. This was me too, you guys. There's always something, right? There's always something else. And the reason we often get into entrepreneurship is because we're driven, right? Because we have this drive inside of us and this achieverness, but that can be to our detriment too, right? Even when we get to the point where we think, oh, once I get here, you guys, I remember at the start of my business thinking, like, oh, once I make X thousands of dollars a month, like, I won't have another care in the whole entire freaking world, right? Like life will be golden, right? But of course, like there's always something. So I think it's like not relying, not telling ourselves the lie, I will X when blah, blah, blah. I will wait for this until I blah, blah, blah. But instead, finding a way to be present in, to enjoy our business now. Period. I don't care if you're bringing in $0 in your business right now or if you're bringing in 6 figures, right? Finding a way to, I need to find a way to find happiness and joy in my business right now, period. Even if I'm not fully booked, even if and for me a lot of times, because like I'm not always the most organized, right? Like I try to be, but for me, I'm like, when all my folders are finally perfectly organized, or even though I have content systems, when my content system is that like, if there's something in your head where you're telling myself, I will feel this, fill in the blank, when, fill in the blank, it's probably a lie, right? Not that it's not good to move towards something, but when we put off, and a lot of times, you guys, in an unhealthy way, I would use this to motivate myself, right? Like, in order to motivate myself to get something, but realizing, yes, like Kate says, there's always another level or goal, which is good, but also I guess the biggest tool I use to fight this, you guys, is gratitude. Just being grateful for where I'm at now. And number 6, which is I accept that this is an imperfect process, and just being present. Like, how can I be present and enjoy this now in the undone stuff? When I was working in my corporate job, even before I did therapy, I had a job where I got a lot of emails, a lot. Put an X in the chat box if you've ever been in a job where you got a lot of emails. I got a lot of emails. And I remember like I would work late sometimes, like I would be there till like 7 p.m. just because I was like trying to get to the bottom of my email inbox, right? Like I was trying to get it done. And I just remember, you guys, this is awful, but like sitting there with so much adrenaline, like using that adrenaline and like trying to get it completed, right? But of course, I would literally, this is when I worked for a university campus overseeing the residence life program, so the dorms. So I'd literally walk from my office to my apartment in the dorms, and on my phone I would have more emails, right? Like since then, you guys, I don't know about you, but I don't have any notifications turned on my phone anymore. I don't know when I get emails. I don't know when I get face cams from my clients. I don't know when I get Facebook stuff because none of it's on my phone, right? But I would literally get emails on the way home. So it's like, you think I would have learned, right? But I heard this quote in this season of my life that was, you will die with emails in your inbox. And I was like, oh, puke, what? Like, it's true, right? The point being, there'll always be something else. There'll always be more. Not to be discouraging, but realizing because of that, just being able to accept it and find a way to find happiness and contentment and not let that be our sense of contentment or achievement or worthiness, right? Again, going back to, my business doesn't define me. Yes, of course, I'm going to work through my emails, but I'm not going to use that in order to be satisfied or content, right? So accepting the process as imperfect, like having a sense of like rest and joy in our business, even when there's things undone, right? Even when there's stuff on our to-do list, finding a way to be present. Okay, that's my 6 things. I'm going to review them really quick, and then I'd love to just open this up for Q&A. P.S. Thank you for hanging out with me. I adore all you guys. Hello, Krista. Hi, Lynette. Hi, Nicole. Let me know if you have any questions for me as you're thinking about all of these 6 things that I've learned. And again, as I'm saying them aloud, I'm going to number them. And I would love you to just proclaim and put the number in the chat box if any of these things are ones that you need to remind yourself of or accept. Okay. So the first thing is, my business doesn't define me. Under that is, I can niche, I can fail, I can risk. My business doesn't define me. That's number 1. Number 2 is, I can sell in my business, in parentheses, and make bank, and still serve, and still 100% be in integrity. That's number 2. Number 3 is, this is just my truth, I lead a high-touch, deep-value, relationship-driven business. Always have, always will. That's what works for me. That's what works for my people. It's not how everyone runs their business, but instead of making that wrong, I'm accepting that as my truth. Number 4 is, I can give and receive. Underline on receive, right? Number 4, I can give and receive in my business. And I can put intention. We put so much intention into giving, right? We can put intention into receiving, right? I can put heart-centered strategy and focus and care into receiving. That doesn't make me any less heart-centered. Number 5, my job isn't to make people happy and comfy all the time. Not my job. Of course, I want people to grow. I deeply care about people. I want to be present with people in their process, but it is not my job to make people happy all the time. I have to remind myself of that all the time. That's number 5. Number 6 is I accept my business and, you guys, let's be real, life as an imperfect process, and I can be present even in the imperfect process. So that is all 6. Hi, Emily. Hey, Latricia, how are you doing? Those are my 6 things. Do you guys have any thoughts or questions? Thank you so much for being vulnerable and also sharing what you like, what you resonate and what you are learning. Lynette says all of them except number 3. Nicole says number 2. Totally. I would love, I mean, if you guys ever do things like this too and share what you're learning in your business, make sure you tag me and make sure you post it in our group, because I would love to hear. I think this is fascinating. But thank you for hanging out with me. Remember, today, I already posted at 11 o'clock the post that if you're interested in attending the Invite Masterclass, it's a completely free masterclass I'm doing, not completely free. I'm asking for you to do an intentional act of service in exchange, but it's just something I'm doing to thank you and give back. I actually had planned on selling it, but I just felt called that, like, no, like, I think people don't prioritize or properly invest in heart-centered learning how to have heart-centered sales conversations. So this is just something I'm feeling called to give you, and to hold the space for 100 women to really enter into this conversation. You guys, it's going to be a powerful masterclass. Like, I can feel it already. And how I work, if you've never worked with me before, is I definitely am strategy oriented. I love being practical and giving you tips and tricks and ideas, but I'm also very heavy in the coaching bit, right? And holding the space for you guys. So there's going to be a lot of interaction. Make sure you block off time on your calendar. It's going to be a powerful class. It's going to be on October 30th at 10 a.m. Last time I checked, I think there were 70 spaces open. Make sure if you signed up via email, you guys, you don't just sign up via the lead page, but you go through and you complete the registration form with my Acuity scheduler so that you get the reminder. That's how you'll get the Zoom link to join us. But make sure that you complete the registration form too. Beautiful. I actually see a few more registrations coming in here. I adore you guys. Thank you so much for being in this group, for being such an amazing community. I'm so, so grateful for you. And I will see you in the group this week. Don't forget to sign up for the masterclass. Okay, talk to you later.